And welcome in, we are family. Yeah. I got my brother and sister with me. Hey y'all, welcome back to another segment of Covenant Family. We are back again. I am Chanel with my lovely co-host for the week, Reese and Wilson Blunt.
Hello again.
They are back. And this week, we get to talk about something even more fun than last week. Last week we hit some conflicts, some finances, but we learned some things. We got some tips.
We did indeed.
We're going to get some more tips this week. We're going to talk about overcoming trials in marriage.
Hard times.
Life hits you sometimes. You ain't always expecting it. It just be happening and stuff. So let's hear from these families that's going to be, introducing themselves, telling us a little about themselves, and letting us know about their marriage. Okay. Come on, families, where you at?
Hello, we are the Grimmets. I am Nancy.
And I am Tim.
We have been married 29 years, going on 30. I know, believe that. And we have 3 daughters. Our oldest, Kayla, is 26. And then we have a set of twins, Rachel and Jessica, who are 24 years old.
And both who have worked with KAA for several summers.
They have.
My name is Ray Archiga.
I'm Sylvia Archiga, and we live in Branson, Missouri, work for Kids Across America. And we have 7 children, and they range from the ages of 25 to 18.
Sylvia and I have been married for 25 years.
I am a retired school social worker. I worked for the Special School District in St. Louis for 28 years, and I sub now and then for them.
And I do lots of different things, mostly flip houses and teach people how to buy investment properties. I've been a pastor in the past, and mostly I'm a father and husband to all of the Grimmets.
All right, Here we go. Round 2, child. It's gonna be fun. So, like last time, y'all got some questions. Y'all got questions. Let's go.
With our notes there. We got questions.
First question we got. All right. Prior to the pandemic, what was a big trial you were faced with as a family?
Yeah. This pandemic been a big one, so hopefully it's been something else besides this. For real.
Well, we've had several trials that we have gone through as a family, but the most recent one was 3 years ago. I was diagnosed with a cancer. It was called a sarcoma cancer, which was in my abdomen, and I had to have surgery to remove 3 large masses from my abdomen. And one of the treatments, of course, was I had to do chemotherapy after they removed the tumors. And on my second round of chemotherapy, I had a severe allergic response to it and basically could not tolerate the chemo. I had to go through it, but it was a severe reaction on my body. And so as a family, we had to decide whether I was going to continue with chemotherapy or not. And we chose to do this walk with the Lord and not do chemotherapy and try to treat it naturally.
To live by faith.
By faith.
And definitely not by sight.
Right.
Prior to the pandemic, one of the trials that we faced right going into it was the passing of my father. In November, I had made a decision to, actually in August, we were going to plan a trip to California. And I knew my dad had been diagnosed with cancer. He was battling that, but really was healthy, looked good, was going through his treatments. Everything was going good. And I kind of just felt like, you know what, Sylvia, I need to go and see my dad and spend some time with him and create some memories in August. I just don't know the timeline. And so ended up doing that. We had a great time. Some of my fondest memories of going with Dad. Went to a Minnesota Viking game, a twin game, back to back. We just had a great time. And then in November, I talked to my sister and said, hey, I think it'd probably be good for us to go to Thanksgiving and do it with Dad without us knowing if we had 1 year to 3 years left. And so went with my dad. I went there, told Sylvia if I could go and, just spend some time with them. And the reason I asked her was because November 26th is our anniversary, and that would have meant me being there from our anniversary, our 25th anniversary at that, and just so man, so special. She's so awesome. She allowed me to do that. And so I went there, excited to see my dad, spend Thanksgiving. Me and my sister had it all planned out. And then that Friday, as I'm getting ready to go, he goes to the hospital. My uncle takes him to the hospital. And then when I get there, they're telling me we're going to have a meeting with the doctors and his oncologist, and we'll meet on Tuesday. So we said, great. Dad felt upbeat, felt good, but you can kind of tell he was weary, only to come to find out that we actually had 2 weeks left with my father. And so I called Sylvia, and we did Thanksgiving in the hospital. Then he got released, and then in the middle of Christmas, he died December 8th, 2 weeks prior to me going up to visit. And so that was a pretty tough time for me and my family. Just, man, I love my dad so much, and just so proud of the accomplishments that he has had in 35 years of sobriety. He was involved in prison ministry. He was a president of Alcoholics Anonymous. He was very active in his church. Loved riding his Harley, just loved life. And but it was really tough. And so having my family to see my father pass away, we were there. We were fortunate enough to be there with him as he took his last breath. And so, very tough time for us. And then shortly after that, the pandemic hit, so I'm fortunate that in that I was able to be with my dad, because 1 month later, 2 months later, if you guys remember, they weren't allowing you in the hospitals. You wouldn't have been able to be there with your families or nothing. So I'm just very grateful that we got that time. But it was very tough as well, because also it was the first time probably that our kids have experienced a loss of a loved one that close to them. Mm-hmm. And so we had to walk with them and help them process through that, as well as me being the pillar, having to be encouraged and just kind of doing that. So that was kind of a trial for me. I think probably for Sylvia as well.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big things.
Yeah.
Families, but
Yeah.
it's
been tough.
Trials, man.
hard times. We all don't hit them hard moments in life. I
For sure.
I feel you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Got-
Next
you got
question.
another one?
I got another question. How would you describe the emotional changes you experienced through these times?
You be going through emotional changes
It's
too?
emotional changes for me. How would you describe it though? You gotta be real. People
Yeah.
need to know.
Yeah.
It's helpful for me too.
We were notified of Nancy having an allergic reaction to your chemotherapy treatment, and one of my daughters and I were away from the hospital at that time. We were stricken with panic and fear. We didn't know what was happening, so we immediately rushed back to the site where we found my wife very flush, almost non-responsive, speaking very slow and lethargic. Nurses were scattered around trying to take control of the situation, and after some time, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, they regained control. But my wife was very nervous and very shaken up at this point, as well as the rest of the family, when we felt as if there was nothing we could do. And in the weeks to come, Nancy and I had to take evasive answers and just what to do. She'll explain what she did as a result of this experience in chemotherapy treatment.
So it was a very, obviously, emotional time, very confusing time. I was very scared. I literally felt like I was going to drown and die during taking the chemotherapy. It got really red and flushed, and my daughter Jessica was with me, and we had to hurry up and get the nurses. They disconnected it, gave me Benadryl and a steroid. So, the nurses wanted me to continue on, and the doctor wanted me to continue on, and I was just scared. So we did that one treatment, but then when we came home, my husband and I, we said, we need to really pray on this. And as I was praying and thinking about it and talking to the Lord, I felt the Lord tell me, I never told you to do chemotherapy. So, and that was right. I had gone to the doctor and listened to the doctors, and they told me chemotherapy, so I did it, but I did not ask the Lord. So I was just being obedient, and follow the doctor's directions. So after this, I felt like the Lord gave me peace that I don't really need to do chemo. And also I had another experience right after my surgery where I woke up and there was this angel over me, and she had her hands on my abdomen where they had done the surgery. And I was like, what are you doing? And she said, I'm fixing you up. I'm healing you because God has big plans for you. And I remember waking up the next day, and this is before we knew it was cancer. I was like, oh, this angel visited me. I remember telling my husband. So I had a lot of highs experiences, like of comfort from the Lord. And then I had a lot of low of experience because, you know, you have to tell your children, you have to tell your family. And then we had to go back and tell the doctor, you know, we're not going to do chemotherapy. And they were not happy with me. The doctor really felt like I needed it to survive. And I basically said, the Lord has really told me, you know, that I don't need chemo. And I really told him I felt like I was going to die from chemo, not from cancer. That chemo would kill me, but not cancer. And, you know, it really has been a walk of faith, and it still is. It's been 3 years, and I've been cancer-free. Everything is shown fine, and I really just feel like the Lord has covered me. We even went to a healing ceremony. I mean, I try to eat better, but I really just feel like God had got me and that he wanted me to have the surgery, but it's truly a walk of faith. But it was hard for my family and my daughters, too.
Yeah, I would definitely say that my emotional being was all over the place. I think for me, my mental healthness was probably at its lowest. My anxiety, my depression, my stress levels, I mean, everything you can just imagine was just going crazy. With the deaths, with seeing Ray, you know, having to deal with so much with his father passing away, and us going to Minnesota so many times, and then, you know, trying to make sure that everything here at work was taken care of, but then also my children. It was really tough. Being a mom at that point and being a wife, but also, you know, having to come to work was really tough. So my emotional being was just all over the place, I would say. It was really a tough time.
Yeah, I can piggyback off. I think it was a roller coaster ride for me in so many aspects, dealing with death, trying to celebrate life or marriage, walking our kids through things, but man, just really encouraged, felt the presence of the Lord in the whole thing, and knowing that, you know, in the tough times is when, you know, when we say consider in James is consider pure joy when going through trials, and what it does in developing perseverance, all that has to happen in order to make us more mature and complete. And so just experiencing that in the mix of a trial and holding to the scriptures was what really helped me, because just think about, in the mix of that trial of losing my father, we as a camp were dealing with, are we going to have camp? What is camp going to look like if we have camp? What is camp going to look like if we don't have camp? And so at that same time, feeling the weight of going, okay, as the executive director, as a husband, as a father, as a son, man, how do I process all this? And man, just really leaning on the Lord, trusting the Lord, and not trying to get too far ahead, but focusing on that day really. In Matthew 6, I think 34, don't worry about tomorrow and its issues, you know, and really going, okay, I got to focus on today, and really not get overwhelmed with all that was taking place. So it was a roller coaster ride, but I really felt the presence of the Lord in the mix of all that was going on.
Man, that was a lot.
Yeah.
You be going up, then you go down, then you turn around, you good, then you drop, then you back.
But you know, it's good to hear other people's perspectives on how they deal with this.
Yes.
You know, like,
It really is.
Stop, drop, and roll. We making it through though.
Yep.
That's all that matters.
right.
I mean, y'all got some muscle.
Yeah, next question I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say these moments strengthened your marriage?
Most definitely. Reflecting back on the time that Nancy had an episode with chemotherapy and the tumors that were removed out of her stomach helped me reflect back. During the year prior, I had spent about a year rehabbing a pastor's husband's, his name was Pastor John Husband's, bedroom to bring his wife home. Prior to this, I had experience with Nancy. She had, some years back, had a hole in her heart. And I was so caught up in myself and sin and what I was doing. Only thing I wanted her to do was to get better, hurry up and get better, because I had to take care of her when she was in recovery. And I was very insensitive to her and just a horrible husband during that time frame. And this situation gave me the opportunity to reflect on what I saw Pastor Husband do, which his wife was near death. Every single day he took her a meal. Every single day he visited her. He sang to her. He played the guitar to her. He went to battle for her against the doctors and their diagnosis of what was going to happen to her. She had a 4% chance of living. And through that time period, she not only lived, regained her breathing capability, began to walk, and she came home and lived in her house and walked upstairs, which no one ever thought was even going to be possible. But I saw him through his prayers and his steadfastness in his relationship with God, that he, in God's unity, overcame the situation that was before them. So that gave me the opportunity to see what a true husband should do as he walked and prepared and provided a shield and a covering over his family and especially his wife. So this definitely gave me opportunity to, as we do a do-over in how I responded to my wife when she was ill this time, in no rush in getting her healthy, everything that was necessary, hand and foot to help her feel better, was what I did during this time to care for her. And the family recognized that it was a totally different me taking care of my wife this time than the time before.
Yes, and we saw that, and I noticed it and commented on it, just how well he was caring for me this time as far as in the past when I was sick. And even our daughters noticed that he was there and how good he was doing. And so it strengthened our marriage. It did definitely strengthen our marriage because I saw his love for me wasn't conditional on me being well and healthy, and I wasn't preventing him from doing his business, but it was all just about, how can I serve you, Nancy, today? How can I serve you? And that strengthened our marriage, definitely.
I would definitely say that the pandemic was God timing, if you can really say that. That's really crazy. I'm an introvert. So I love being at home, and I love having my family at home because I feel safe that way. And through everything that we were going through and we had to be quarantined, for me, it was such a big blessing to be able to be next to my husband without anything else going on and allowing him to mourn. But also for myself to be able to feel safe with my husband next to me, and also knowing that my children were okay and safe and whatnot. So really crazy for me to say that it was God's timing for the pandemic and whatnot. But I mean, for us and where we were in life, man, I don't take it for granted the quarantine time that we had together.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, a guy who likes to go, to be still was really good, because not only for marriage and my own spiritual, personal journey with everything that I was taking on, was able to just have time, just me and the Lord. But then, man, you know, like Sylvia said, I mean, just to be able to be with her. And I think the Lord, just his ways of allowing us to spend that time knowing that we were fixing to be empty nesters, and we were going to be able to spend a lot more time alone. And so that was just good timing for us to really develop some habits, some quality time habits. We've always been told, you know, hey, make sure you date, make sure you stay fresh on your date nights, because when your kids are gone, you don't want to just be sitting there staring at each other and not knowing what to say. And so that kind of just really prepared us, I believe, in our marriage for what's to come next with empty nesters.
What y'all think? Y'all feel like that was pretty good?
Yeah.
Strengthening.
Yeah.
Get some weights in there and building
For
it.
sure.
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
For sure.
I heard you had one more.
How has this pandemic affected your marriage? It's affected a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of
How
people.
has it affected your marriage?
During this pandemic, it has given our family and my wife and I an opportunity to have very deep and consistent and long conversations on aspects that we're reflecting on as we get up in the morning and do our quiet time. The Lord will sometimes drop something in your spirit that says, you need to work on this. And the opportunity that we had in, not being rushed around, we're empty nesters, gave us the opportunity to have deep conversations and to investigate maybe what we had interpreted as a situation or a time frame, and give the other individual a time to respond. So I know that was some deep conversations we were able to have.
we just had more time together too during the pandemic. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a bad time for us, like you said, because we're both kind of retired and he's self-employed. So we had breakfast together. We were doing stuff out in the yard and yard work together. He's a rehabber. We're painting houses. So it didn't affect us really in a negative way, us as a couple in our marriage. If anything, it just made us grow closer because we had more time together. But we did notice when our children came home that for Mother's Day, they were all here, how their reaction to the pandemic was a lot different than ours as far as, do you wear gloves and masks, and should you see the grandparents or not see the grandparents? We had like a whole hour-long discussion with them over should we see Tim's parents, and some of us were for it, and some of the kids were very against it, feeling like, no, I don't want them to catch this. So that, as you said, deeper and longer discussions with their kids over the concerns.
Later, we ran into the race relations with
George Floyd,
who was murdered, and how to respond to that, and the anger and frustration, and just how to deal with that. We had several friends who would call us, both white and black, and saying, how are you doing, and how are you responding, and how are you reacting? Kids went to protest. So it was a time, once again, for deep, honest conversations. And they continue even to now, even how the states are responding to that, as well as the pandemic, and what is acceptable and not acceptable with face covering and protection. And we're truly finding out what United States means, in that each state has its own choice in making and determining what we do. So it's been quite a time for honest reflections, and we hope that they happen to hear from you as well.
I feel like this pandemic really strengthened our marriage. 7 children. I used to say that the time couldn't go fast enough for all my children to be out of my home. And now I kind of regret saying that. You hear me say kinda. No, I'm joking. I do regret it. And it's really been crazy because I think Ray and I have really just learned how to just gravitate to each other. And even last night we were talking about, hey, do you miss the kids? And it's like we should get in the car and turn around and be like, hey, stop fighting or whatever, or walk in and the kids be going crazy. But it's been really cool just to see how the pandemic really allowed us to come together as a married couple. I think it allowed us as spiritual beings to be one with the Lord, but also remember that we're that triangle. And, I've always said for years that, these are Ray's strengths and these are his weaknesses, and vice versa. These are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. And together, when we come together, we're a lot stronger this way. And I feel like, with children, you kind of do this because you kind of don't get to know each other very well. But during the pandemic and during us spending more time together, we became one and whole again. So I think it really strengthened our marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
Man, I know. The pandemic affected y'all?
For sure.
Man.
This pandemic, boy, came out of nowhere.
Like jab, uppercut.
Bruh.
I'm getting stabbed in my sleep right here trying to plan a whole wedding in the pandemic. Talk about stress.
Come on.
But it's okay.
Hello.
So just like last time, I feel like I have a culminating question I want to kind of bring into all of
You
this.
gotta learn, girl.
I'm trying to learn. So in all of these things, trials before the pandemic, during it, how are you and your family, how are y'all taking steps to help navigate through these moving forward? What does your family steps look like to help process and navigate through all this? What are y'all doing to get through these times?
One thing that we understand and know through all of this is nothing took the Lord by surprise. And we know that He wins in the end, and the battle is His. So we are just to be steady and stand firm and be ready in all times for His return.
Right. We always just be fervent in prayer and submissive to the Lord, and know that, Tim said, the battle is the Lord's, and He has a plan and a purpose for all these things. And you might think that it's a bad situation, but in the end, the Lord wins. So to not fear it and to push through it, to be a witness of the Lord through it and help lead others to the Lord, that's, our main goal is that they see that your peace and your steadfastness, and they ask you what it is, you just say, I just believe that God has me, that God's taking care of me. And be in the Word and in prayer. And that's our main thing, and that's our battle plan always is to.
Our battle plan, I think, has been consistent through our whole 25 years of marriage. Just wearing out our knees. I remember when my kids were babies, I used to, when they were sleeping, I would lift them up and just anoint their heads with holy oil and just pray over them. And as they went to school, I would take out my holy oil and I would just go to their pillows and I would just anoint their pillows, and I would pray over their beds and over their pillows and over their rooms and whatnot. And so I feel like our battle plan hasn't changed. I feel like that's the way that we attack this world together. Like, we're just like, you step into my house and hopefully you can sense a spirit, because we've prayed that much to where we have asked the Spirit to live within us. I would say that's our battle plan.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do as a family is we are always able to call one another out if we see someone who is acting out of character. And just have honest, deep conversations. I was called out in the midst of this with some of my opinions, and I'm not one to always believe what the media has to say, and that we should look deeper to find the truth from all different aspects. But how we do that, we're just allowed to have open and deep conversation with one another, and to have a true conversation, not an argument. And that's the difference in our home, is that anyone can call a family meeting, and it's important. So God gives us honesty and truth in His Word, and that is what we are to seek. And justice is only brought forth by Jesus, and that is what we strive for as we love one another and are called to be unified with everyone. And I think that's one of our lasting pieces, is to be loving and be unified in the body of Christ. And for those who aren't in the body yet, be as loving as you can and bring them on in.
Yeah, and I think if you go and read Philippians 2:2, that's kind of been our battle cry, for our family, is just, man, that we're thoughtful of others, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And what does that look like? Hopefully we model that for our families. And now that we are in that latter stage where the kids are out now, where they can begin to implement their own. But for us, man, it's love God, pray hard, live it out, and love people.
Mm-hmm. I do want to add one thing. As our children were growing up and going out, every time they would leave the door, we would always say, hey, make sure to make Jesus happy, make sure to make God proud, make sure to make Jesus smile. One thing that Ray and I always talked about with our children was, it is about the Archega name, but more so it's about the name of the Lord that you carry. So how do you want to carry that name? How do you... what am I trying to say?
The reflection of Christ is on you. Don't drag them through the mud.
Yeah.
People are watching.
Say that better.
Yeah, I can. This is so great.
Yeah.
I love getting to do this with y'all.
This has been fun. I did enjoy it.
Like, everybody just sharing all that love and just... I feel like I done learned so much.
Okay.
Already.
It's okay.
Already.
It's okay.
But I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Can't wait to see y'all at the reunion when we get everybody on there to dialogue about this a little bit more. It's gonna be fun.
Nice.
But in the meantime, y'all have a great night. Thank you for being here. We love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely.
We got to go find these babies. We got babysitters. They got to get their churn back.
Absolutely.
So we going to go find the babies. And we'll see y'all next time.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.